This is the ABBA Voyage Series. We will be talking about every song from the album, and of course, we will start at the beginning with I Still Have Faith in You. Hey! So, first of all, we have some incredible news. ABBA is nominated for the Grammy Awards with I Still Have Faith in You for Record of the Year. The ceremony takes place on the 31st of January 2022. And what better way to celebrate than by starting our Voyage series and discuss that very song. I have two opinions or impressions of I Still Have Faith in You. One from before the 5th of November as the very first ABBA song we had in almost 40 years. And one after the 5th of November as part of an entire album in the context of its flow. And I said it before, the flow of the album is impeccable and so is this song. With both of my impressions, I always liked I Still Have Faith in You a lot. It was always positive, but my appreciation changed and grew even more when I finally listened to it as the opening song for Voyage. First of all, it had a very soothing effect for me. There we go with an entire new ABBA album, 7 brand new songs. We knew the 3 other ones as singles. So to start off with something that was familiar was just perfect. It was a peaceful start. And secondly, that's basically what this song really expresses for me. It is very calm, it feels its way, then it slowly builds and culminates in its crescendos, the big chorus. But then it moves back again, really like waves going up and down, and with that, I think I Still Have Faith in You perfectly captures what is coming with the entire album. It's a precursor of what Voyage is all about. Because basically, every second song is a slow number, with the exception of Just an Ocean following Don't Shut Me Down. And those ballads continually change with uptempo numbers in between them, like verse and chorus in I Still Have Faith in You, like the waves of an ocean. It's the perfect album opening. And here's my friend Sam with his first impressions of the song.
Well, at first I thought this could be the opening number of a musical, which makes sense because Benny wrote a lot of stuff for musicals in the theater. A few days before the 2nd of September, I listened to Frida's Spanish solo version of Andante Andante, just to be prepared to what ABBA and her voice may sound like now. And yeah, you can hear the age in her voice, but to me that was a huge bonus. It comes across so natural and pure, and it shows that age isn't a prison for ABBA. They could have fixed this easily in the studio, but didn't. Both Frida's and Agneta's voices had such a pleasant maturity.
It really is incredible to think that Frida recorded her last full-length album 25 years ago. That's a quarter of a century. And speaking of Frida's version of Andante Andante, it's almost ironic, because that song was released on the 27th of April 2018, exactly on the very same day that ABBA first announced that they recorded 2 new songs. And Frida's song was almost completely drowned out by the news. But I want to pick up on what Sam said about the song being like the opening of a musical. Well, it's very musical-like, but not only musically. The lyrics on the one hand are of course as self-referential or self-reflective as really no ABBA song before, and they are also a precursor of what is to come with other songs from the album as well. But I also had to think about the work of the late great Howard Ashman. He wrote lyrics for the amazing music of Alan Menken in the early 90s for some of Walt Disney's most well-known films, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. And that was really the renaissance of Disney's films too, their comeback as well, because Howard Ashman said, let's really go back to the roots. And what were those roots? Lyrics that said, here's my problem, and I need to solve that. So, in I Still Have Faith in You, we have the dilemma, the big question, do I have it in me? And they need to solve that. We do have it in us. Like those Disney films, like a true musical really, as Sam said. And musically, it does go back to Björn and Benny's musicals, Jazz and Christina von Duvemola, the slow build-up of the verses, or even to ABBA's very own I Let the Music Speak, which was back then a precursor of what was to come with jazz. But I Still Have Faith in You also has many classic ABBA elements. Think about the second verse when Frida sings Do I Have It In Me, and Benny follows those lines by repeating the same melody with his piano synthesizer. Which he also does in the following lines, I believe it is in there, and For I Know I Hear a Bittersweet Song. That's a typical ABBA trademark, and it's those things that really make this song stick in our heads. It's very ingenious. And it's also those sublime harmonies by Agneta and the others that is pure ABBA. And some people observed that the vocals are mixed somewhat cloudy, especially in the chorus, and someone mentioned that it might be quite on purpose, as if ABBA themselves are literally feeling their way through this very first song in almost 40 years. Now, we also need to talk about another version of the Voyage album, which really is like an alternate mix, and that's the Dolby Atmos mix. This is only available on Apple Music and Tidal. Now, what exactly is that? You may have heard of surround sound. When we speak, for example, of 5.1 surround sound, it gives you not only two channels in front of you, like on a usual stereo system, but a third center channel and two channels behind you, the rears. Usually, that is how we watch films in the cinema, or of course, even at home when we have such an equipment. Now, Dolby Atmos adds to this with channels that are above you, so that the soundscape has a three-dimensional space. It's hard to explain, it's never the same as when you're listening to it on your own to really get the entire experience, but I hope you get the gist of it. And now with the Voyage album, we have such a surround sound mix. This is not the first time that it's been done for music, but it is a fairly new and groundbreaking technology. And with this Dolby Atmos mix, we can isolate those channels from the front, center and rear, so we have a very different sonic experience, we hear instruments differently, we can make out strings and synthesizers in a brand new way, and even vocals that are simply buried deep down in the normal stereo mix. I have to thank Bobby for providing me with these fascinating versions, and there is a great channel here on YouTube called Random Hero, which is uploading those isolated tracks one by one. And Sam said something interesting about those isolated tracks for I Still Have Faith in You.
Yeah, my first impression was that it's like there are 2 or 3 more songs buried in the mix. It's that complex. You have an incredible orchestra that plays its own melodies and counterparts, and at the end we also have vocals from Agneta and Frida that are very unusual and are never recognized in the final version.
It reminded me of very typical Beach Boys style harmonies. They come together with Björn and Benny's harmonies there, and it's almost impossible to make out what they are singing, but let's take a listen to this one.
Have it in us, have it in us, have it in us.
So this was one of the few lines I was able to understand a little bit of when they sing "and be grateful." And then we also have a cello in the center channel playing its very own things, which I never really heard before too. And finally, Sam mentioned it, there is the orchestra, and again, the orchestra really works in two ways. Brilliantly on its own, but even more brilliantly in context with the rest of the song. And that's what I meant when I said that this album is pouring out with melodies and music. There is so much happening on so many layers, like with these complex melodies and arrangements of the orchestra. And credit where credit is due, we always praise our four heroes, and rightly so. But responsible for all the orchestrations on this album is Göran Arnberg as orchestrator and conductor, and he really did amazing things here. The Stockholm Concert Orchestra plays almost through the entire album, which again is something we never really had for an ABBA album.
Yeah, I mean, we had strings before if you think back to the Arrival of Voulez-Vous days, but never to this extent, and in my opinion it gives Voyage its own unique voice. It also adds a bittersweet note of transience and farewell. The orchestration rarely sounds disco-like, but way more reflective and meaningful. It's almost like an orchestral film score.
Which again does make a lot of sense, because Benny already used parts of the melody for I Still Have Faith in You in the 2015 fantasy film Circle, so it really does go back to film music. And that film, by the way, was produced by Benny with his son Ludwig, who of course has an important role in the entire Voyage project as well. So many things come together here. And with this opening song, I said it before, we get a taste for what is to come with the album. Musically, with the up and down of slow numbers and uptempo songs, like verses and chorus in this song, lyrically with the self-references, And now I need to give a little sneak peek into Ode to Freedom here, because with that song, it really comes full circle. First of all, with its roots. Many people have said that Ode to Freedom reminds them of a closing number in a film, and in fact it was written 25 years ago already, which takes us back into the mid-90s, where Benny was involved in a lot of musical, theater and film music, especially for projects for Marie-Louise Ekman. So Ode to Freedom harkens back to film like I Still Have Faith in You, but Ode to Freedom also is the end of this journey, the end of Voyage, and lyrically you could say that it may be the solution of I Still Have Faith in You. Or is it? Because it doesn't really solve anything. Again, it raises questions or doubt. If I ever wrote my Ode to Freedom, or I wish someone would write an Ode to Freedom that we all could sing. It's that same uncertainty like in the opening song, do I have it in me? I believe it is in there. So folks, this is our Voyage series. We are talking about the songs, the music, the lyrics, the vocals, the context of the album, but we are also looking into some of the highlights from the Dolby Atmos mix. And next time we are talking about When You Danced With Me. Alright, until then, hey do!